Hey everybody, in today's episode, it's myself, Benjamin B, and the Destiny. Listen, in today's episode, we are talking about the why behind getting sober. Why is it, in fact, that people get sober to begin with? We talk about that. We also talk about, do we spend too much time looking for the reasons why we are the way that we are, rather than just working in the solution? A lot of times that can hinder us from making progress in our recovery. Or if you're a family member or loved one, maybe you spend too much time looking to find reasons why your loved one is the way that they are. We also talk, is it necessary to work a 12-step program multiple times throughout your sobriety? Is it beneficial? Could it not be beneficial? We cover all that and more. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I'm your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we've got Destiny.
What's up, guys?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
Yes,
Right.
sirree.
You trying to memorize it?
I'm trying. I'm going to get it one day. I want to come on here and do the introduction.
Okay. How we doing?
We're good.
Good.
I saw you put up your little pistols there.
Pew, pew. Yeah.
You know what's so funny, dude? Like, totally razzing me like a few weeks ago for like, I would do my pistols when I dance. Now she's doing it all the time.
It's like the dad thing when the music comes on and Ben's over here like, bam, bam. I'm like, dude, put your guns away. It's like his most famous
That's nice. You know,
dance move.
But then
the
people
only-
start doing it.
It's the only dance move.
Who
he
started
has.
doing it?
Nobody.
You did.
No.
You just did it on camera.
That wasn't a dance move. It was like, hey, how's it going? You know what I mean? That wasn't a dance move.
All right, I can see the listeners dropping off as we go.
I know.
So we had our first night last night of the Big Book study. Worked out pretty well. There was at its peak, there were 50 people, which is kind of what I anticipated. You know, I had that kind of benchmark in my head, so I'm glad we hit it. Good participation. You know, people interacted. Eric did phenomenal. You know, that's his wheelhouse, is the Big Book.
Mhm.
So, you know, every Monday moving forward, 5:00 Eastern time. And the cool thing is that you don't have to start from the beginning. Like, you can register today and join us next week or the following week. You know what I mean, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
So, but one thing I noticed last night is there were a lot of people that obviously were very familiar with the Big Book, but there were some family members and they were a little apprehensive to share or to speak or to say anything. And I was sitting there thinking last night, do they feel like they are not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Probably informed enough.
Yeah, maybe they're not informed enough, or maybe they don't qualify to speak on the topic. So I thought we could talk about that today.
Well, I wonder if it was just too much to take in because and let me just, I mean, the Big Book in itself there's a lot of information. There's a lot of information on the program and Bill Wilson and everything, but for family members who don't really know anything about it, I mean, I know when I'm on the phone with a family member, first time making a phone call, having anything to do with treatment or to deal with a loved one, and it's like, sometimes I have to remember to take it slow because it's just so much information to take in. Like, okay, step one, but then, you know, they want to know about this and, you know, when we implement this into the plan or what, and it can be a lot to take in. So, you know, maybe they're just trying to sit there and
Take it all
process
in,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, because Eric, I mean, I've never heard anybody besides this one, Big Book Ben, break down that book the way that those do too. And it's a lot.
To Destiny's point, I was literally thinking the same exact thing. Like, put yourself in the shoes of I mean, you did it. The first AA meeting you ever showed up to. I know it's virtual, but you probably went in person. They didn't have it back then because you're old. But
Oof, that sucks.
we're the same age, so it's a dig on myself too.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, did you speak up in your first meeting?
No, and that's a good point.
You know,
No.
people like us with long-term recovery that work in the field, we're subject matter experts. I have to remind myself on a regular basis, even with our clients, like I'm like, dude, this is such common sense. But if I put myself back to early recovery, was it common sense for me? No.
It was a foreign language.
Yeah.
It was really hard to comprehend some days, just anything about it. Even being an alcoholic or an addict, like I wouldn't have been able to go through that book by myself. And even when it was getting broken down, like I had to go at a slower pace. It's a lot to take in and understand.
Let me ask this question. The three of us being in recovery and knowing what we know, do you think it would have been, like in the beginning stages, do you think it would have been more advantageous had your parents known about the big book or were more informed about alcoholism and addiction and stuff like that? Do you feel like it would have helped them help you in a way?
No, because and I'll speak for me, because my dad was in AA. I've been to AA meetings with him as a little girl, but even with as how much knowledge he had of the program and the book and everything, it was useless when I didn't care to hear about it or do anything with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Ben, what were you going to say?
I was going to say I would not equate it to it would necessarily help them help their addict, but it would help them.
Yeah.
And just having that peace and understanding. That way you recognize what's going on. It makes more sense to you. It takes a little bit of the questioning out of the cliche, cunning, baffling, powerful. Like, is addiction cunning, baffling, powerful? But yes, now I have an understanding of why it's cunning, baffling, and powerful, rather than just being completely lost. And it makes me, because I, being on both sides of this, in recovery and now helping other people get sober and having people in family and active addiction, it's like, because I have that understanding, it helps me have some internal peace. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get frustrated, I get hurt when I see people relapse or I don't agree with their behavior because of active addiction. But I am able to start thinking things through with time and be like, okay, this makes sense. Be angry at the disease, not at the person, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, again, the three of us sitting here, we have the knowledge of the big book and we have a lot of knowledge in AA, and Destiny now has a lot of knowledge in NA because she's chosen to jump ship for whatever reason.
ACA, and AA. I've just got my hand in the melting pot.
Can I ask you a personal
in the melting
question?
pot, or you're just that sick? I digress.
Both. Yeah, I digress.
Personal
Both.
question. Let's hear it.
Sick and still needing a lot of help.
Let me ask you somewhat a personal question.
Okay.
Why do you feel it's necessary to do all of that? There's no right or wrong answer here. Obviously, Your answer is your answer. I did the steps one time. I have no intention on doing them again.
That's so bad.
Why, though? This is good. This could be a healthy debate.
I might introduce some controversy to this too.
Okay.
You got to think. So the first time you did your steps, you were at a certain spot in your life. Going through your steps again, it's going to be completely different than you did it the first time. Why? I mean, look how much the steps helped you for what they could do for somebody like you. Why wouldn't you want to go through that again? Why wouldn't you want to continue to do that throughout the stages of your life?
No, but that wasn't the question. The question is, why are you? Don't reverse it on me and
Well,
put
I
it back
thought you
on
were
me.
asking why is that? Like, why couldn't somebody?
I said I don't have any intentions on going through the steps
Okay,
again.
so then hit me with a question again.
From
I
your
was focused on
perspective,
yes.
from your perspective,
Yeah.
why do you want to, you went from AA to NA and you've done ACA,
I'm doing ACA.
like
Yeah.
what's the draw to that?
So I didn't go looking for any sort of change. It's just how the cards kind of played out for me. I'm going to give a lot of that to God because when it happened, when I went through, when my mental health kind of plummeted and I got put in therapy to see a psychiatrist, and I was just, it was horrible. It just so happened the way that things just kind of lined up for me that, I wasn't as involved in AA as I was used to being. I went to a comedy recovery show, hadn't had a sponsor for a couple months. And I met this woman and we instantly clicked, Meanwhile, I'm going through my mental health struggles, and some days the only thing I'm doing right is not getting high or drunk. And we meet for coffee. It just so happened that, she's been in NA for, I think, 14 years, and she's been doing ACA for the last 8 years, so, and she got into ACA the same way that I did. I think it was her 8 years, her mental health it plummeted out of nowhere. And they say like the 7-8 year itch when you're in recovery, you hit that, like, what is it? Mental, I can't remember what they call it. Spiritual,
Blank spot.
yeah, I don't know, something like that. And that's what happened to me. So we got into ACA, and then I started going to NA, and I found a really good, and I didn't have a home group at the time either. So it just lined up that I was going to a meeting with her. It happened to be NA. And I tell you, this meeting is so good. There's so much time in this room with these hardcore used to be drug addicts that have like really it's just a really inspiring meeting, So with where I was at, I made it my home group, and I made the decision to start going through the ACA steps because that's a lot of inner child work. It's just, the spot that I was in.
Yeah, I think that's great. So essentially God put somebody in your life.
Yes.
You had no intentions on, from my perspective, at least what I heard, you didn't have any intentions on joining ACA.
No.
Moving over to NA.
No.
So it was like God doing for you what you could have done for yourself, but you weren't going to because you didn't really think that it was needed, maybe.
Yeah,
and so God placed this woman in your life.
Yeah, no. And I knew that like I was going to look for another sponsor to potentially like go through another round of steps because that's what I needed with where I was in my recovery. It wasn't strong. I wasn't doing good mentally. And if I continued and didn't do anything about it, I was going to continue to just go downhill in a not good direction. And I look at it as God lined it up exactly the way that it needed to. So yes, I have done and grew up in AA, and now I have an NA home group, and I'm working ACA steps. And some people might not agree with that, but that's everybody's recovery is different.
Well, there's no, again, like I said, there's no right or wrong. Ben, you said you were gonna.
Yeah, it's with what she's saying. Like, I'll agree with this part. Like, it can be definitely seasonal. And a lot of times you don't go looking for something and it just kind of falls in your lap, which I get that. Like, I was even talking about that when you and I were talking last week where, people are like, oh, Ben, your program doesn't look as strong. And then like magically without me doing any work other than talking about it, like I end up at all these random meetings around all these random people that were like randomly inspiring and
found a new meeting with new men that he absolutely loved.
Like, I didn't go looking for it, necessarily, but I was like, oh, all right, I can get down with this. Like, I definitely get that. Here's where I'll introduce the controversy. We ready? And this is not right or wrong. This is just, and it's not even controversy in the sense that like this happens every time. Something that I saw once that actually affected me. It was somebody else working a program, somebody close to me in my life. ACA is adult children of alcoholics. They work 12 steps. They go through it. They look, like you said, look a lot at inner child work. There's an individual in my life that's going to be a part of my life no matter what, who got so deep in ACA for so long that there was negative returns on it. It's like, this is like, it went from looking for a solution in the beginning to just looking at the why am I like this versus like quickly identifying the why and then being in the solution part. Like, you have to identify in any program negative feelings, but then the whole purpose in that is to move forward towards a solution. Like, I need to identify this so that I know what to do to make it better and feel better. But this one instance, like, it got to the point where a lot of family members like were like, what is going on? It like actually started eating this person alive to the point where other people like finally confronted her. Not me, not being one of them, but like other family members like, yo, maybe this ACA thing, you've been on this journey with this for years and now you're starting to lash out at people. It was interesting. And I'm not like negatively talking about ACA. I think this can happen in any program. It can happen in therapy. I had my own therapy appointment last night, and I actually really appreciate it because my therapist brought this up too. On like, she was talking about like the benefits of therapy and what it's supposed to be about. Cause you know, I've been very open about it. I just started doing therapy recently, and a lot of what this lady's saying as far as ideals and principles behind what she does really resonated with me in the sense that she was like, I mean, dude, she actually asked me yesterday if I knew what the feelings wheel was. I was like, yeah, I know what that is. We use it at Family Week. And I literally was just looking at one on Saturday. And she's like, well, I'm going to email it to you anyway afterwards. But she went on the importance of like, the whole point in this, Ben, talking about this negative stuff is we're going to identify this, but then I'm here to help you move past it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus, because I think what you were getting at, Tom, the reason I said like it might be controversial, I think what you were getting at was like, rather than allowing God to guide it, it's more like, let me just seek out. Because we see that too, even with clients, dude. Like, there has to be some sort of equilibrium and balance. How many clients have we come across whose parents forced them into therapy when they were 8 years old? By the time they get to us, they're like, I've been doing therapy for 20 years straight. And I almost want to say to them, maybe we need to stop doing therapy.
Right.
Because it becomes they're looking for something like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Is all they're seeking after a time. So somebody needs to be there. And this should be a therapist's responsibility. I don't know, maybe a sponsor in the case that I was using, like to say, hey, somewhere this got derailed a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Why work steps just to work steps?
Well, I think people oftentimes get, and to kind of tie this back into families and loved ones, they even do this too, in the sense of always looking for the reason why.
Mm-hmm. That was my point.
Why is my son like this? Why is my daughter like this? Why is my spouse like this? And it is important to identify the why, but I do think that it's more important to, okay, we've identified the why. What do we do to move forward? And how many conversations, the three of us here, we talk to family members all the time.
Yeah.
That they want to know why. And sometimes I'll say, I don't know, Susan, I don't know. If I knew that answer, as a matter of fact, there's somebody that's popping into my head right now, and her son's sitting in detox right now. He was hospitalized.
Mhm.
She kept asking me why. Why is he like this? Her name's not Susan, but for the sake of this, I'm going to say, Susan, I don't know. If I knew, I would be filthy rich because I'd be able to fix it. But part of this falls on him. And I said, we could talk till we're blue in the face to try and identify the why. But the point that Ben says this all the time, the fact remains, right? Do you say that? The fact remains. Maybe you don't say that.
I don't say that.
No, you know who says that?
Fact remains.
You know who says that? Donnie Baker, God rest his soul. He died.
Oh, he died?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, don't get sidetracked here with
All right.
Donnie Baker.
Come on.
The fact remains that we're here. Mm-hmm. What do we do moving forward? We got to put a plan together moving forward. Doesn't mean that we, as the big book says, shut the door on it. But we have to move forward. We have to think, okay, something spiritually is going on, something mentally is going on, emotionally, physically, whatever. What do I do moving forward? And a lot of times people burn so much energy and so much time, energy, and resources to identifying the why when it's like, what difference does it make?
Yeah, we cover that with our clients all the time. Stop asking why. You're sitting in this chair. What are we doing about it?
And that's the thing. And I don't like, Destiny, I know you want to say something.
No, you're fine.
The trauma thing for me. I get it. It holds its place. And we've had this conversation with therapists before, our therapists, and they would agree. And they don't listen to this podcast anyway, so I could say whatever the hell I want. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I feel like that gets hinged on. And it's like, I
can hear it now in our meetings. The trauma.
Yeah, don't forget, guys, this is a trauma response. And it's like, I understand the premise behind that, but what do we do moving forward? I know what it is. I'm not asking for a definition of why they're doing what they're doing. What do we do moving forward? And what happens sometimes, even, and our therapists don't do this, but I do think some therapists do this, is they hinge on that, right? And then to your point, Ben, that could be what happened to this person that was in ACA. Now we're constantly looking. If something bad happens to us, okay, what was the reason behind that? Oh, something else bad happened to me. What was the reason behind that? Something else bad. And you're just on this hamster wheel, always looking for reasons, always looking for excuses. And it almost turns into justification of whatever our actions are. So, Destiny, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I know. It's just, you guys said a lot of good stuff. There's a lot to process.
Are you falling asleep?
No, I'm literally thinking. I'm sitting here drinking a Red Bull. No, my mind was melting with all of this stuff that you guys just said.
Dropping bombs over here.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It was all really good information.
Can I go then? Or are you saying something?
So I think the answer, the why, though, for me is as simple as like, because I'm an addict and alcoholic. And when I'm not spiritually fit, when I don't have a program under my belt, that's the why. Now, down to the exact time and moment of like where I slipped or whatever. But I think for me, what just keeps me in check is like, I remember I wake up every morning with untreated alcoholism and addiction. And when I don't have a solution for me to follow for the 24 hours that I'm in, I'm just as much at chance for a relapse than somebody that's got 30 days, you know? That's my simple why to, if something were to happen and, you know, I end up in the hospital or on the street homeless somewhere, like the why is because I have a disease today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, until I'm buried 6 feet in the ground. I have a disease of addiction.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we can all agree on this, that the maintenance of our recovery is contingent upon our spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. And your original question was, why go through the steps again, or in whatever capacity?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, too, different things are appropriate at different times of our life or in recovery, too. Like, in Destiny's case, she did AA, those steps. Like, for me, Destiny teases me all the time. She's like, well, you could quote the big book, you applying it? Like, in all honesty, when it comes to knowledge about the big book and the steps, there's not much more you could teach me about it. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't know it all. I'm not saying that. There's always more to learn. But like, what I need to start looking at is where can I grow in other areas? My personal example, people have been saying to me for years, Ben, you should go see a therapist. You should go see a therapist. And I was always like, yeah, it'd be good for me. I don't disagree. But I think now in my life is probably the most appropriate time for that type of growth. Like, I really appreciate being in therapy now, as opposed to like I was just doing it because people were telling me to do it 3 years ago. Like, I don't think it would have been the same, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're doing ACA now versus, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been mentally ready for the type of work that like ACA requires. And it's the same with the steps. Everybody's recovery is different, and even like for me, which obviously this is it's a ACA and AA are completely different. So I'm going through 1 through 12, but like I've heard like in AA or NA, like you do steps, 4 through 12, rather than going through every single step the exact way that you did the first time. It's like maintenance.
Yeah.
Like Ben was saying, you know what I mean? It's not like you sit down and do it the exact way, because it's not going to be the same. But that's also what I think is really cool about it, is you could go through the steps 10 times in years that you're clean and sober, and every single time it's going to be different. It's going to be a new experience.
And I'm not saying for myself either that I won't go through the AA 12 steps again sometime in the future.
Maybe
I don't
NA?
know. Maybe there's an appropriate time. Oh my God.
How many times have you done the steps?
That's kind of like a loaded question in a way of like, more
11,
than
10,
once.
11, and 12.
No. Hear me out.
That's exactly where
Because
my
I had
head
multiple
went.
sponsors. And if I give the most precise answer I can give, a lot of sponsors brought me through the steps multiple times. But it wasn't until I had this certain sponsor at 3 years sober where I was like, now I know how it was really supposed to be done. This was the one that counted.
Right.
But I knew at that time that those sponsors like didn't do it right. Like, I had to figure that out through sitting in meetings. In fact, it was my home group on Sunday night, 8:30 at Oasis Club, that was my home group for first 8 years of my sobriety, where I started hearing other people talk about the way that their sponsor brought them through the steps. And over the course of time, I'm like, that's not what my sponsor had me do. My first sponsor ever was hey, go read, I don't remember exactly, hey, go read the first doctor's opinion and Bill's story and then report back to me and highlight some stuff. Like, but the guy that I had at 3 years sat me down and read that book to me line by line. Like, so for me, my version, I didn't do the steps the way that I consider them quote unquote right until my 3rd year. But I was able to say, I worked the steps with my first sponsor. I didn't get to step 12. I relapsed before then. But, and like I had experiences, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So like.
Well, that's why I'm glad I'm doing this big book thing with Eric.
Well, that's what I love too, to elaborate on that. The way that Eric is doing it on there is exactly my opinion and based off of my experience is exactly the way that it should be done in AA.
And that makes me so happy, because I've seen it and heard it 1,000 different ways in the rooms of NA and AA, of how people take it and make it their own. And then over time, over, different sponsor and sponsees and sponsorship families, it just becomes watered down, and it's no longer AA's way of going through the big book and the steps. It's our way of how we think somebody should be taken through the steps. And that's not the purpose of the program. We go through and you do exactly what the book says. You stop when it says to stop. You do this when it says to do this. Like it is Alcoholics Anonymous. It is that program that you do. And over time, I've heard it so many different ways because people think they could take it and change it and do it the way that they think it should be done. Yet their best thinking landed them a seat.
Yeah.
Like
and treatment.
Like to kind of elaborate on my first experience, the guy that was my first sponsor ever, obviously I won't say his name. I love him to death. Like his younger brother was actually in my grade and he was 2 years older, 3 or maybe 4 years older. But anyway, like that's how I knew him. And I was like, oh, I'll have him be my sponsor. Like your little brother and I were friends in elementary and middle school. Like you surf, you skateboard. But my very first experience doing steps with this guy was literally, like I just said, Ben, go read the doctor's opinion and Bill's story. Go through, there's a solution, and we agnostics. And the first time we actually met to do step work, he's like, okay, get on your knees and hold my hand and we're going to pray. We're on step 3. And I'm like, bro, what? Like totally for me, I wasn't able to comprehend that book on my own. So my first experience is like, dude, I'm at this dude's house and he's telling me to get on his knees and he hasn't even bought me dinner yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is going on here? Y'all had a delayed reaction.
Yeah, at least buy me a cheeseburger, damn it.
like, dude.
I was trying to hold it together. I couldn't.
I was thinking about you on your knees holding some other dude's hand.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
asking for a piece of bread.
So my point is like, here I am, hardly freaking sober, dry, like a few days without a drink or a drug, and you're making me feel awkward as hell without any backlog understanding of the doctor's opinion, the allergy, the mental obsession, what AA even has to offer as a solution. Like, all that has to be explained before you tell me to get on my knees.
Right.
Oh, man.
And that's what the big book does. It's a textbook. It's a manual. It's meant to be studied.
Mm-hmm.
You gritted your teeth there, Ben.
Yeah. It ain't Ben's Anonymous.
That's right.
It's not sponsor number 1 Anonymous. It's Alcoholics Anonymous, based off the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. Tying it back to family members and loved ones, I think that... Go ahead.
Bro, I forgot. I meant to mention this earlier when you first brought this topic up. You know, I think you might be part of this. We're part of a Facebook group that's like not real recovery talk, that's family stuff.
Yeah.
And someone put in there, they did it to get a rise in the comment section. Like this post was definitely put in there for controversy. And it said, research says you can, big capital for the can, help your loved one get sober.
Wait, hang on. You what? You can?
It said research shows you can, in capitals, help your loved one get sober.
What's wrong with that? You said...
Or no. It said get your loved one sober.
You can get your loved one sober.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was put there to be controversial. And of course, in the comments, and because this completely ties in, like I was reading through it, I'm like, whoa, no one was wrong about their answer, in the sense that like some people were like, well, you can't help someone that doesn't want help. That's true. But at the same time, like if you're taking care of yourself and doing your own 12-step work in Al-Anon, you can inspire them. So are you really not helping? Like it was interesting that topic came up, and looking at people's responses, like some people got super offended in the comments.
Well, let's just ask that. Let's just ask the 3 of us. Destiny, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Can you get your loved one sober?
Can you get your loved one sober? I'm going to say no. Can you help get your loved one sober? Yeah, probably in a few different ways, leading by example. Taking care of of yourself, putting up personal boundaries. There's a lot that goes into that, codependency and letting that ride out for a lot longer than it needs to. Are you looking up something?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Can you help? Sure. In a few different ways. Can you get them sober? I'm going to say no.
I would agree. You can't get them sober. But I also, and I've been very open about this, when people say you can't help them if they don't want the help, I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that is because I didn't necessarily want the help. Did you want the help?
Yeah, I did. But no, you're not wrong with what you're saying either.
Did you want the help?
The first time, no. Second time, yes and no.
Okay. I mean, again, that's a very broad statement when we hear it all the time. Well, why, what's the point in going through all this if he doesn't even want to get clean?
Because you start planting seeds that they know that it's there for, when they do say, okay, I'm beaten down, or, they don't have any, they don't have any options or whatever.
Well, of course. And 95% of people don't want to go to treatment.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they shouldn't go.
Yeah.
No, you in fact should go. And hopefully you meet somebody, you interact with somebody, you start seeing. That was my case. I didn't want to go to rehab, but snow was going to start flying. It was cold. It was like I didn't have a place to live anymore. I didn't have any money, totaled my car. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go. But then I started meeting people and I started understanding what sobriety was. And then what do you know? Then I wanted to be sober. So don't fall for that trap that, well, if they don't want to be sober, what's the point in even trying? Okay, so don't try, and then there's a guarantee that they're not going to get sober.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
No, definitely try. I would say definitely try.
Yeah.
Just
don't enable.
Don't enable, and know when to draw boundaries and
Yeah,
stop.
know what trying looks like. It's not like, oh, I'm going to pay your cell phone bill so I know how to get a hold of you and where to track you. Or, I'm going to, whatever, fill in the blank. Go ahead, Ben.
On what part?
I don't know.
I don't know. What'd you look up? You're like, I feel like you're ready to go.
No, this ties into it, and we'll do a quick plug. We have a Facebook group called
The Sobriety Network.
Say it with like a thing. The Sobriety Network.
The Sobriety Network.
So, where you can ask questions, and talking about this, literally another example came in mind. I'm going to read this paragraph quickly. This was one of the quote unquote scenarios that was posted by an anonymous member. It says, "Hi, I was hoping to get some advice tips. My boyfriend will be discharging this week from rehab. After 30 days, we'll be going to a sober living recovery home through Oxford Houses. I know things will be hard, and it's only a one day at a time thing. Does anyone have any feedback, advice, experiences that might help me navigate my part of it, or shed light into what he may experience? He will be local to me, which is great, and it will also be a new beginning for him because he wasn't local to this area. Parentheses, great for starting over. I want to be supportive without impeding on his recovery journey. In parentheses, already in Al-Anon, have a sponsor, am reading literature daily, have attended an open AA meeting, and have a therapist. Thanks in advance." So this person, I guess today you can't assume. I was going to assume it's a girlfriend, but I guess a boyfriend can have a boyfriend. But I digress.
I mean, it's probably a girl, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Let's just not assume and say loved one. How about
Loved
that?
one. Okay, thank you. Those were the words I was looking for, Destiny.
Yeah.
So I responded, and it's literally along these lines because you asked Destiny, can you help your loved one get sober? And this is literally the same question, just in a scenario format, in my opinion. I said, mostly allow him to see what you are doing for your recovery because that is all you can control. Don't skip meeting with your sponsor. Don't rearrange your Al-Anon meeting times. Don't cancel your therapy appointments or reschedule. And don't put off reading literature to spend time with them. Put your recovery first and lead by example. Allow him to see this and he may be inspired to do the same. If both of you fail to put recovery first, the relationship will be in for hard times. It's not just the boyfriend in recovery.
No, it's both.
She's in
and
recovery.
they will say
Oh God.
because we don't
Destiny's
know.
dropping the
You sure it's not
pronouns.
them?
They them.
We don't know. I don't want to offend anybody.
Zer.
Because the loved one, we'll say she, so you guys will get off my back. I mean, she's already doing it. She's showing up for her first and foremost and her recovery. So already, like you said, leading by example, she's taking care of herself. She's going to learn so much about herself and boundaries and enabling and, all of that stuff and everything that she's doing. So she's already doing it.
Yeah, that's good. I like what she's doing.
I like what she's doing too.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
why I elaborated.
Yeah.
Literally keep doing what you're doing and don't let him sidetrack that.
You're doing all of it. Continue to do that.
If he's in town and he's like, hey, babe, let's skip our meetings tonight. Let's
No,
have dinner.
sorry.
Screw you, dude. Go and get my recovery on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun. I think that made for a good episode.
Yeah.
So one more plug for the Big Book study. It's on Mondays, 5:00 Eastern, realrecoverytalk.com/Big Book Study. Make sure you go there, register. You're going to get sent all the links. It's just a Zoom link. You just click it and it's, let you in. It's good stuff. Any plans for the rest of the week/weekend?
What day is today?
Tuesday.
School for me.
Oh, that's
First day of classes today.
Boring. Ben, anything?
For the weekend?
So years down the road when I have my nursing degree, though, it's not going to be boring.
That's
so
right.
don't
That's
be
right.
rude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a question about that.
Oh, God.
But
Yeah.
for after.
After.
After the podcast, not on the pod. Why not on the podcast?
I can ask on the podcast. I'll ask.
Okay.
A little birdie.
I might.
A little birdie said,
I'm kind of a big birdie.
Big birdie. Yeah. Big bird over here. Big birdie Ben. Big birdie Benny Boop said, Destiny said something that kind of took me by surprise.
What did I say?
Said something about, well, maybe I may not go back to nursing school.
Oh.
She didn't say exactly that.
Well,
I didn't.
okay, all
so
right.
I didn't say that, but I'll be completely honest with you. Anybody in this field and that knows me personally in my recovery or just in my life, Rock is the only place in treatment that I would ever work at. So
Yeah.
God forbid anything happened to Rock, I'm not going anywhere else in treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, you guys just continue to make it harder and harder and harder to want to step away. And through the holidays, you guys made it that much harder for me to want to leave. Without going into too much detail. And it just, but it comes down to just the team and our reputation and the culture that we have,
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I did make a comment, but that doesn't mean.
Well, but it was in good context.
It was. No, it really was
Yeah.
because I love this place.
But I think you'd be an idiot to not finish.
No, I absolutely am going to finish.
No, now.
What do you mean?
Don't take a break. In other words, don't pause because we know how this goes. I paused school and then I finished 10 years later.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not pausing. Now, I'm not going at full speed because of the hours that I put in for work. But no, I've been going steady for 2 years, going on 3. Am I going into my 3rd year now?
I don't know.
Something. 2nd or 3rd year. But no, you guys do make it hard to leave. Yes.
Well, if you want us to make it hard or make it easy to leave, just let us know.
No. We're not going to do that.
You were saying it'd be hard I think it'd be hard for you to leave the field too. There's so much fulfillment. Nursing's also fulfilling too. And the thing is I literally told her the same thing. I'm like, do not stop going to school for your nursing degree.
No, that's not. I had zero.
No, you weren't
intention.
implying that,
Yeah.
but I said it anyway.
Yeah.
I said it anyway.
A little Big birdie, what did you say?
Big birdie Benny
Big
Boo.
birdie, bim boop.
Don't do the Benny Boo Boo.
Bitty
oh, wait.
boop
I just
boop.
Nope.
Oh, Benny Boo. What did we do?
You know that movie, dude?
Did we strike a
Dude,
nerve
don't do
here?
that, dude.
Bitty boop boop.
Oh, God. You seen that movie, right?
What?
That was like a big chick flick back in the day.
Anyways,
How to
plans?
Lose a Guy in 10 Days, I think is what it was called.
Oh, it's a great movie. Anyways, Benny boop boop. Shh, be
Okay,
quiet.
so you have school.
Yeah, school.
What classes are you taking
Gym.
this semester?
I'm taking my lecture class for anatomy and physiology 2, and I'm taking my lab class with that.
With your lab coat?
That lab coat is solid. Yes, with my lab coat. Yes.
Nice. What about you, Ben?
This weekend?
Yeah.
I haven't even got through today, Tom. I have no idea.
Yeah, good.
And I'm hanging out with Nala always.
Your cat?
Yes.
Don't you have 2 cats?
Don't say it like that. No, I have Nala. Your cat?
Wait a second. I thought you had 2 cats.
I had 3.
Yeah, where'd they all go?
Well, 2 went with my ex, and I kept Nala.
Oh. He wanted the cats?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got gymnastics this weekend. So this weekend starts my gymnastics tour.
Ooh.
Yep. This weekend I'm in Winter Haven, Florida. It's about 3 hours away. The following weekend I'm in Orlando. Then I have a weekend off. And then I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
The following weekend I'm in Orlando again. The following weekend I'm in Daytona. And then I think the following weekend I'm in
Jacksonville.
Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Did you hear this before?
I was like Amanda and you were on the phone together. And
Yeah.
And I do a better job listening even to your wife than you do. So hear that,
I
Amanda?
believe it. I believe it.
Because I'm a good
100%.
listener
Yeah.
with everybody.
So yeah,
He
basically
doesn't listen to anybody.
that's not true.
Yes, it is. You know how many times I've yelled at you
About what?
for not listening to me?
What'd you say? All right.
Nothing.
This was fun.
That was fun.
It was good.
Dr.
Hey.
T's almost here, so gotta
yeah?
wrap this up.
Can we do something special to go out this
Yeah.
episode?
I'm
Everyone
down.
look at the camera.
Oh, gosh.
Look at your camera.
Oh, we're looking at the camera. All right, here we go.
All right.
What are we doing?
Give your dancing pistols. See, now everybody's doing it.
Nope.
You're still lame,
Yep. Yep.
but
All right, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.